Well, good morning, Gathering Network kids, and welcome back to Kid Zone. Last week, we talked about the shepherd seeing the star in the sky and finding Jesus. And today, we're going to talk about some more people who saw that star. Far away in the east, 3 clever men saw the very same star, the star that God had put in the sky when Jesus was born. They knew it was a sign. A baby king had been born. They had actually been waiting for this star. They knew it would come. They were shouting with joy, "He's here," and dancing and laughing. I'm sure if you had been there, you would have heard them from far away, singing and dancing and laughing until the sun came up. At dawn, they packed up their camels and wrapped gifts for the baby. They brought their most precious treasures of all, frankincense, gold, and myrrh. Special, sparkly, lovely smelling, expensive, gleaming things just right for a king. So these 3 men, the 3 wise men, if you had met them, you would have thought they were kings because they were so rich and smart and clever and important looking. They rode their camels across endless deserts, up steep mountains, down in deep valleys, through raging rivers, over the grassy plains, night and day and night, for hours that turned into days, that turned into weeks, that turned into months and months, until at last they reached Jerusalem. Jerusalem at that time was the most important city around, and as anyone would have told you, that is where a palace would be, and kings were born in a palace, so that's where they went. But they were in for a surprise because they went to see King Herod, because surely as king he would know where this baby was, but he didn't know. And he didn't like the sound of a new king. It actually made him upset. He didn't want anyone else to be king except him. So King Herod's smart people, their advisors, told the 3 wise men what was written in their books, what God had said about this baby king. Go to Bethlehem, and that's where you will find him. Suddenly, the star that they had seen in the east started moving again, showing them the way. It was a miracle. So the 3 wise men followed the star out of the big city, along the road, and into the tiny town of Bethlehem. They followed the star through the streets of Bethlehem, out of the nice and fancy part of town, through the not so nice part of town, to a little dirt road, until the star stopped over a little house. But it wasn't a palace like they expected. There weren't any guards or staffs or flags or trumpets or red carpets or anything. Maybe they got it wrong. Or was this what God meant? Sure enough, in that little house, in that little shack, there, sitting on his mother's knee, they found him, the baby king. The 3 men knelt before this little king. They took off their rich royal turbans and their gold crowns, and they bowed their heads to the ground and gave him their sparkling treasures. The journey that had begun so many hundreds of years ago before had led the wise men here to a little town in a little shack, to a little child, to the king that God had promised David all those years ago. But this child was going to be a new king, a new kind of king, the Prince of Heaven, God's own son. He would live among the poor, and though he was mighty God, he had become a helpless child. The promised king who would be the savior of all hadn't come to be the boss. He had come to be a servant. Well, we're going to stop there with the story of Jesus today. Go ahead and take some time with the discussion questions, and I'll see you guys next week.